Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 513. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra. I am here, I am live, and we are ready to talk about Captain America, Brave New World with our something old, something new, and something blue. So that something old is Charlie Carden.
What? You try it. I know how old you're going to be in a couple of months here, and it's older than me, and it always will be. So nice try. So you're something old, and what's borrowed is our great guest, Mr. Eric Hultgren, the Incredible Hulk, is back after a long hiatus of being a guest on the show. So it's good to have you back, my friend.
It is great to be back, my friends. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. Yes, we're going to dig in. So if he's borrowed and you're old, what was the third thing? Blue. Well, look at that. I did purchase my Captain America Sonic helmet thing from the popcorn bucket, which will never see popcorn, but it's right there. And then I got the free poster, which is right there. So I appear to be more excited about this film than I actually ended up being, but we'll get to that in a bit. Yes. After we talk, we kind of do some housekeeping and we talk about something great promotion-wise that's going on, which Todd will talk about. But I do this part where I like to talk about our great Patreon Secret Friend Squad. These are some great folks that by being part of our Patreon over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, exclusive shows, no ad shows, Discord benefits, all kinds of great stuff for 7 days for free, and then as little as $2 a month by staying on board, which is a lot of entertainment for just $2 a month. Folks like Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, good buddy of mine. Francie, my wife's hairdresser, she just got a brand new episode of Bad Trip to the Movies with the Cardens. Todd, we talked about Valerian, which I know you and I talked about. Oh boy, holy cow!
It's a movie.
It was a movie. Luke Lore, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, and my Uncle Tim down there in South Haven, Michigan. Much obliged. Friends with Benefits level, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, our friends Kelly and Crayley, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, Kurt Krug, my buddy who gets me all those great interviews, and our friend Tanya Lee down in Alabama. And then last but not least, and Todd's going to expound on this a little bit more, our top tier folks, our number one supporters, the awesome Nias family in the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. What do the Nias family got going on, Todd? You got something.
Well, they're awesome. And they want to share the podcast, so they felt the best way to do that was actually give away 5 annual Friends with Benefits Patreon subscriptions. The good news is you'll get all our content ad-free, and first, you'll be part of our Discord. We have a Patreon Connect that we do typically every other month. We need to schedule that where we just get together, have a good time, chill out. But all you need to do to enter to win this awesome gift is subscribe and comment on all our YouTube videos. It's pretty easy to do that. And then rate our podcast on Spotify or Apple. And then if you do that, take a screenshot of that with your username. DM us on Blue Sky at Secret Friends Unite, Instagram at Secret Friends Unite, or email us at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. You'll be entered to win, and we'll announce those winners on March 4th.
Woo! Can't wait to have some new folks on board with the Patreon. Well, moving along to this cover, Todd, I will absolutely give you credit. Your ability to dig up these covers is certainly nothing that I've ever heard of. Always astounds me. So we've got something called The Bouncer from November of 1944. This is a World War II era comic selling for 10 cents. I feel like that was a lot of money back in 1944 when comics were still 10 cents in 1961 when the first issue of the Fantastic Four came out. So we've got this nice gentleman wearing a toga with the kind of the Jesus sandals. I'm impressed. And his associate is a Frenchman that either has a riding crop or a bottle opener. And you'll see it on the YouTube that we're talking about here. And they're jumping off of, does that say Atlas? What does the pedestal say he's jumping off of? Antios?
Antaeus.
Okay. Antaeus. So anyway, the word bubble, or the word block right by him says, new thriller, The Darkened Lighthouse, Adventures of Rocket Kelly, One Round Hogan. And then underneath Antios, as he's jumping, a very 1940s looking woman, two hoodlums, one of which who has is that a laser gun or something? He looks like he has like a laser rifle or something.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't know what's
Tommy
going
gun.
on.
It's a Tommy gun.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I didn't see the big old thing that's underneath. And then the other guy's holding his pistol to do it like a club, and he's got a valise, which I assume is filled with dirty money. Might as well have the big dollar sign on it. So that's the first page. What's going on here? I mean, let's get some thoughts.
So the cool part about this comic was published by Fox Feature Syndicate, which quite honestly, it's Fox, so maybe Disney now owns this, which would be pretty cool. So now they have some new characters to go after, but this is one of those anthologies. So it's basically got 4 stories in it, and the one on the top was the bouncer, and essentially it was about a duo of people called Antaeus Jr. and Antaeus, which was a Greek god or something like that. That was a sculpture, and his ability was to bounce off the ground. The harder you hit the ground, the higher you bounce. I don't know what that good thing that could be. Would be, but that's
get
what
away
it
from
was.
stuff. Get away from stuff.
He fought a villain called Goldbug, and then there were other stories in this comic as well, based on those names of those titles. So at this point, you are getting more than one story for your 10 cents. So I think it's a good deal.
What do you think, Eric? What does this cover say to you when you look at it?
I would say the kindest I could say is it says it's of the time. That's probably the kindest thing I could say about it.
We have a lot of those conversations here. And then Todd, you did put what I'm assuming is the back page of the book, means that the middle part is browned out, so I assume that's where a staple went. And it's a woman sitting on a big dinner plate with her hands in the mashed potatoes, kind of gross. And it says underneath, "Don't be a leftover. Teach yourself to dance in 15 minutes a day." Tap dancing. I'm looking at this wrong. How to dance, and then the third one that says you're dancing. I don't know what it is. All 3 for $1, which still seems like a lot of money.
3 for $1 or 50 cents each if sold separately. So you do get a deal. I mean, it
is a deal.
Pretty good. Buy 2, get 1 free. And I love it. That's one of those like dancing books where you actually lay out your steps.
Oh, yes. Here, move over here, go over this way.
Wouldn't you love it if they had that date like now for like modern hip hop or something like that? Superman steps. Do this. Do that.
Oh yeah. Do the Running Man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not.
Do the twist.
I'll tell you what. Without a doubt, I know who's the real author of this book. And Todd, you know where I'm going with this. Who else could it be, particularly with the postmark of New York, New York, but our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb? This was when she was in the 40s. She was in her 40s. So she was working her way towards retirement, which still at age 125, she's not acquired. But these days she is working for us down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine in Hollywood, California. She's got all the latest news and scoops for us. So let's go have a look.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. I believe, Madam Webb, that you bought the rights to these those dancing books we just talked about. So you were going to bring in stylings of the modern music, including you've got Cardi B's WAP. You also got let's see. Oh, Not Like Us. So she's going to put a dance routine together for that, and we'll sell it to the kids. I'll love it.
It'll be a big seller. Well, talking about a big seller with kids, at least kids from 25 years ago when this franchise was new. Todd, what is we've got a trailer. I think was this a Super Bowl trailer? Or did it come out before that? It seems like it's been around for a couple weeks.
I think it was before that. We did not get a lot of Super Bowl trailers of new things.
Yeah.
So even it would have been the same one they showed. But we are back with Final Destination. The last movie was in 2011,
and it was a prequel. Spoiler alert to the first film. It was a kind of contemporaneous events. Yeah, so I feel like I've said that.
It was the first destination. Yes,
it was. It was the
video game series.
It was the Phantom Menace of the Final Destination. It was episode 1.
Perfect. Yes, so there's a video game series called Final Fantasy, and it's now up to part 16. So a lie. Yeah. I love a title with a lie in its name.
The final's not
this
coming.
is essentially a new edition called Final Destiny's Bloodlines. I don't really know what will be new in this series, but basically, this is your Rube Goldberg puzzle Invoked Death, which is always fun. They always bring out, how is that going to happen? And this trailer that was shown opens in a tattoo parlor, and you start seeing this woman's tongue out where she's getting a piercing. Like, well, this is going to probably go wrong. Nope. The good thing about this is they always stretch out kind of like all the elements. They take picture, they're zooming to different parts and showing this. And then once you start seeing what's going to tip off, you're like, well, what's going to happen? And that's the part that make these movies great. I mean, literally, he was in a tattoo / piercing hall, and you know what? It was his time to get a piercing, and it's well worth watching. I just want to say,
it was a long one too, as I recall. It was like
about
you're
2 minutes.
full. Yeah, well, you're full because your standard like full trailer for movies like 2.5 minutes, and this was just kind of a scene from the film. It wasn't anything like kind of groundbreaking. Eric, where do you land with the Final Destination films? April and I watch them every October, all 5 of them, just shotgun them through. Oh yeah.
I do not know that I watch all 5 of them, but I would say like that kind of Saw-esque Rube Goldberg horror is very, very fun. And I think the reason that this one is so long is because of how long it's been since it's been out. So it sort of gives you, this is what these movies are. If you didn't see the one 30 years ago, this is what we're doing right now.
For the kids who are new to this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And now they're not just killing teenagers, which was obviously what the first one was all about. They've moved through because, it moved, more into like 20 somethings. And then, a kid and his mom got killed in one of them. Like she got squished in an elevator door and it ripped her scalp off. I mean, there's just, they've done it all. They've done it.
Well, this is called Bloodlines. So this involves kind of tracking. It runs in the family is the tagline. So this is like, it's like Jaws 3 where the jaws
the shark
on the
shark goes
members.
it goes down to the Bahamas.
How does he know that? He smells them from the air and tracks down,
well, it's like salmon spawning, right? Just kind of swimming upstream. Not really.
But that was the movie that Roy Scheider was. He couldn't track Roy Scheider down because he already left to do something else and brought in Michael Caine for that movie.
Oh boy!
Yeah, this is going to happen, and this has got to be Tony Todd's last film because he said he's in it. Breck Bessinger is in this too, which I always liked her from Stargirl. So May 16th. It's going to be a movie, and I've got to admit it, I've never seen a Final Destination movie. That I'm just so
you've got to be kidding me.
Probably check it out.
So your entire life you can drive down the highway next to a truck with logs on it, and you're totally fine. Like that has not affected you at all. Because the rest of us, it's not. Yeah. It's not okay.
It's a thing. It's probably, even though that was the second film, I feel like that's the thing visually that stands out to a generation, even though it was the second film. Because the first one was, a plane exploded, and that's terrible, but it doesn't seem that clever.
Don't get on the plane, right? Or something like that.
But it's not like I'm driving down the highway behind a logging truck. And of course, these films are all filmed in Canada, so I'm sure there's logging trucks everywhere because they got a lot longer.
Which brings it back, if I'm on the highway, I'm always worried about one of those because going underneath one in like Christmas Vacation.
Very good.
Family.
Gotcha.
So that's my greatest fear of being trapped under a truck for no reason. But
I
this
understand.
will be, I think this will be the feel-good movie of the year.
Yeah, and right in the middle of the summer season. So this and the sequel to Megan are our big horror movies for the summer. It's like, hey, Todd, where are those going to land on our summer movie challenge? I have no idea.
Another movie series I need to watch. So the first one. When there's only one movie in a series, I guess that makes it a lot easier than when there's 5.
It absolutely is. So so I mean, obviously we'll see it because April and I enjoy it, and like I said, we shotgun through those just as a giggle during Shocktober because they're all the same, but it's different people, and you can say, oh my god, that's so inventive, whatever it is. All right, moving on. Todd, this month, either next month or in April, they start filming Avengers Doomsday. Or so I heard in a video I watched this morning. But the rumor report is Tom Holland, while busy off filming another project, will be more of a Mandalorian style talent in this, doing a voiceover for a mostly masked Spider-Man, which is great because they don't typically do that in these movies because everybody wants to see how pretty Chris Evans is or Tom Holland or whatever, or Robert Downey Jr. Where in the comics, Spider-Man is masked, 95% of the time. So what's our early thoughts on Doomsday? I mean, it's obviously going to be really shaped by what happens with the Fantastic Four, I'm sure with the Thunderbolts as well, but I don't know. What are we thinking about?
Well, You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking Tom Holland's going to make a lot of money because I think he's going to be making a new contract. So, and as of right now, I've heard rumblings about a new Spider-Man film, but we don't know when that's going to happen.
True.
So I will be curious to see where this goes. And I will be curious to see, based on the last movie we just saw, and there was a thing at the end in that bumper about something called the Others, what it truly means. Are the Others the Fantastic Four and Doom and the Negative Zone and people like that? I'm curious. I'm curious really what this big threat will be, because if it's truly Galactus, that's pretty cool. But then what's after that? Because that's kind of like Fantastic Four's big thing, and we're getting that right away. So I am curious if it's truly like breaking everything down. We did see a picture of that was John was that John old man John Malkovich?
Yeah, so they're kind of postulating might be the Red Ghost, which is
Okay, I've also heard that might be old Doctor Doom, like a future view of him. Like, and there was a comic where he had long hair and things like that. So I don't know, but at this point, I'm worried that the Avengers could just be a cameo factory. Like, it's going to be like everybody's going to be brought back from everything, kind of like Wolverine, Deadpool. I don't know. Like characters from other universe will come back in cameos, different versions of them in the multiverse, kind of close that out. I don't know. I don't know if that's great or not, but Spider-Man being great with Back to the Avengers, they need that, because right now the roster of the Avengers is essentially characters that quite honestly are second tier that most people have not gotten behind with the most recent movies and TV series. I don't know, Eric, we have not heard your thoughts on kind of the current state of Marvel. We'll hear about a little about that when we talk about the movie, but with news of this new movie, Robert Downey Jr. coming back in a different role, what do you think of what Avengers Doomsday could be?
Well, I mean, I know we're going to get into Captain America in a second. I would say the biggest concern is that we're a year and some change away from an Avengers movie, and we don't have any Avengers. That's probably the
problem. Yeah,
it's kind of a problem. And there's nothing on the slate that will put Avengers together, save for the Thunderbolts, unless we. So I don't know. I'm mostly concerned, to your point, Todd, that it just ends up being a cameo factory because there isn't an actual set of Avengers. As far as what Tom's doing, I think anybody in Hollywood that gets a chance to do anything with Christopher Nolan will figure out how to do it right quick. And so this is just, we've set the precedent in Mandalorian that you don't actually have to be there. So why would you be there?
Right. And still get that check. It's not a face check, it's a paycheck.
Yep,
okay,
exactly.
And to your point, I totally thought there was going to be another movie following Fantastic Four.
Spider-Man 4 will be between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So we do know that.
No, but I'm just saying, before we get to Avengers Doom, there is nothing in between them.
Yeah.
We get Fantastic Four and that.
Yeah,
and to your point, Eric,
there's no fall release.
To assemble the Avengers, is it going to be off screen?
We're like,
oh man,
super great
weird.
The Avengers are in the next room. Shall I bring them in now? And then they just, it was like Cap at the end of Age of Ultron, where he goes, Avengers. That's what they're going to do.
What is it, SpongeBob? A few minutes later. It's like, oh, we're so glad you came. I would, do all these things. But I mean, we have Thunderbolts, but is that asterisk like?
It said the asterisk is set, and I feel like I heard this headline. It's been reinforced by stuff. The asterisk means Avengers not available or something. That was Avengers in a video I watched.
Yeah, I heard
Avengers
that too.
Not available.
So I mean, then is there going to be some mention of the Avengers? Like, hey, we heard the Avengers are finally getting together now because the Thunderbolts screwed up so bad. I don't know. I just it's just weird. We have no Marvel TV series that really could do that type of work either, right?
Yeah, there's nothing on the slate that's big and like, season 2 of, like, they're going to be another season of WandaVision or something that's going to put it all together. You just don't know.
Unless it's true like the first Avengers film where they truly weren't the Avengers, they just showed up together and then they became Avengers at the end of the movie. So maybe that is just,
it was when the rest of the letters,
everybody comes together. So
yeah, exactly. All the letters from the Stark fell off except the A, and we're the Avengers now. It's terrific. I don't know, guys. We will hear more as we do. All right. Well, who doesn't love John Lithgow? Going back from what? I mean, what was the first thing you ever saw John Lithgow in? Probably Footloose, Man, it was 40 years
Before-
ago.
had
I
to be
mean,
before that. Had to be before that because he was still, probably in his late 20s.
I was just trying to say for our generation, would you remember him? Like learn about it? He was always kind of a grumpy old guy. But as I mentioned in my tag for this movie, Harry and the Hendersons, which was I think from 1988 or whatever, was something to me to stand out. And he was in Dexter. He was another one of the serial killers. He was great in that. And he's just Third Rock from the Sun was a sitcom. In my family we all loved in the 90s. But now in the new reimagining of Harry Potter, he's lined up to be Dumbledore. Now you could throw a big white beard with a twisty tie on anyone, but I don't know. You think he's got it? I think just by looking by these pictures of him and Michael Chabon, not Michael Chabon. Who was the second guy who played Dumbledore? The name is escaping me. Not Richard Grant. He was the first one.
It was Michael Chabon was the second.
Michael Chabon. Second. Yeah. That's a picture.
Not
of
John
him right
Gielgud. Who's the first one?
Richard Grant. Remember?
Richard. Yeah. Richard,
yeah. Who we found out. Richard Grant. Don't you remember when we were talking about Bumblebee last fall? We found out he did the first version of MacArthur Park. It was like that was Dumbledore. Wasn't that so bizarre? Yeah. But anyway, so the rumors are flying around. Mark Strachan, Mark Rylance in contention to play Dumbledore, but that the trades are saying that Lithgow has got it. And yeah, it does mention some of his credits in here. Some of the ones we talked about, Dexter, Footloose. He was the dad in the first Planet of the Apes movie. Todd, you watched that recently. And yeah, he's just an actor going back the generations past. So what do you guys think? Does he have the chops? Eric, are you a Harry Potter guy?
I think I'm not a super huge fan. I think they're fine. I'm constantly amazed that we're just kind of on this hamster wheel of what many people complain about in the Marvel universe just happens in the Harry Potter universe, where we're just like, let's just keep it going, as opposed to,
right.
I don't know.
Give it a long vacation. Yeah.
Yes. It's never away long enough for people to miss it. Because at the same time we're talking about this, they're putting it back in theaters, which is amazing for generations that haven't seen it in theaters. But it doesn't give it enough time. There's not enough time for it to rest.
Yeah.
If we're not.
Well,
I don't know.
This will actually be a TV series rather than a movie.
Yes.
Right.
And it's going to be on Max, and every book will be a season, which I think a lot of the fans have wanted. So they can actually build out some of the storylines or kind of glanced over, because those books started getting really long.
Well, they had to split the last one, which was like 1,200 pages. They had to turn it into 2 films. So yeah, that's kind of, so there is that last book going to have to be 2 seasons. I wonder if that's how they're going to approach it. They could.
I mean, if they have these kids that don't age too fast, then they can keep it going forever.
Oh yeah,
it does. It's not like Game of Thrones where they have to worry about J.K. Rowling's writing a new book.
Yes,
right.
They certainly
don't have that problem. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And John and he did play Winston Churchill recently. So
that's right.
British accent. And
that was in that. What was that movie? The Ungentlemanly Warfare, which wasn't that. Is that the movie you're thinking of where he was Churchill recently? I think it was Ty, because you saw it, and then we saw.
It was the what's the British series about the Crown? He was.
I swear he was Churchill in that other movie. But anyway, I think that's great. Have we heard other casting news about this show? Do we know when it's rolling? Sometime this year, I assume.
I assume they'll want to cast it, get it rolling very quickly, because right now Max needs something big. Warner Brothers needs something big. Nothing. I mean, obviously they got the DC starting to roll, but they don't have any big series right now.
Right.
Right. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. No premiere date, but expecting 2026, which is obviously well within the realm of possibility. So, all right. Well, who is an extended universe apologist for Star Wars? Anybody? Can we see a show of hands? How about you, Eric?
John loves the EU. John Searcy loves the EU.
Oh my gosh.
Mara Jade and all the characters. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I saw a hand out of Eric. So where do you land with Mara Jade, excuse me? How do you feel about the character?
I mean, I am excited for anything that we're doing that kind of extends the universe, because this is another IP that needs some breathing room, right? Like for all of the problems, we won't go back and talk about the TV shows, right? But for all the problems that the TV shows had, seeing High Republic in some semblance, I think is really cool. And these sort of extensions, and honestly, I would say anything that Timothy Zahn has done or continues to do, or anything having to do with Thrawn, I'm in on. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So that is the blurb here, is that there's a rumor making the rounds that Mara Jade could get her own program or some kind of representation within canonical Star Wars, because again, everybody knows Disney took over Star Wars in 2012 and they put the EU in the bin. Just everything. But it's, in the last now going on 15 years, they kind of milk some stuff back in here and there. But yes, that was a thousand voices crying out in sudden terror when that happened, without a doubt. So how would this work? Would this be like an Elseworlds deal, or like an animated bit where they're like, here she is and she's animated, and here's a new dude doing Luke? You know what I mean? So would it be like that, or are they gonna like go for it for real, and maybe that's when they finally recast Luke Skywalker?
I mean, what they've done with Bad Batch and Rebels, I'd be down with animated to start there and then kind of bring it into live action like they've done with some of the stuff from Rebels and obviously a little bit from Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gotcha. Todd,
to
what
that
about you?
point-
You're a tough critic. You're a tough critic of Star Wars.
Well,
So let
to
us
that
know.
point, I mean, they filled in a lot of gaps of the, with the prequels with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So I am fine going animated, a different style. I was not a huge fan of the art style of Clone Wars and things like that. I'm fine with stories within kind of that EU era when we were, as anyone wanted more stories with these characters, that's all you got, because you got the books and the comics and video games.
Yep.
Because between the three movies, you got nothing really. I mean, really, maybe some Fleer baseball cards or something. Those movie cards, or a Marvel TV,
fabulous.
Marvel comic series. So I'm fine with having more stories with the characters we know and love, animated with talented voice actors that can play and do these characters. Like Dr. Aphra is a brand new character that's part of the modern range, which quite honestly, I think she's strong enough. She's kind of like a Han Solo type, or not Han Solo. She's like an Indiana Jones character with a little bit of darks and grays. Bring her
morally bankrupt Indiana Jones. Absolutely. Now she was within the OT, the original trilogy era, kind of sandwiched between, in particular, her biggest part of her story was between episodes 4 and 5. Yeah. And she doesn't have a current ongoing title, but I think she's still around. So putting her back into the mix, in the Mando era, that's not, that's 10 years later. That's not a big deal. If she's still around, I guess I didn't really look into it. She could be dead, but let's hope not.
Sure. But I mean, why not? Why not have adventures with the original trilogy crew that, quite honestly, the last time we saw them after the movies, they were all ancient and old and died like after their movie appearance.
They all died.
You're done.
And in the case of Carrie Fisher in real life, unfortunately. But yeah, Harrison Ford got his Return of the Jedi wish and got killed off with Luke. I guess, that was kind of the end of his journey, whatever it is. But and then he came back Mandalorian, where they had to kind of funny up his face a little bit. But recast, tell more stories. Todd and I have been saying that for years. You know what I mean? There's more to do with Han, Luke, and Leia, but you just have to recast. You have to.
I will recommend everyone, if they're not into video games, at least watch the cutscenes of the new Indiana Jones game.
Oh, I got to get around to that.
Baker does of Harrison Ford playing Han Solo is amazing.
You mean Indiana Jones?
It is Indiana Jones. Yeah, it's a really cool story, really well done. And I'm like, just do that. Just do things like that. And let's just move on. Satisfy some of the olds. Give the old, the kids the other stuff. And balance out the force. We need to balance the force, right? Let's balance.
Oh my gosh. Or better yet, what about balancing the Schwartz? Oh, we've got some rumored news about about the gestating sequel to, talk about long distance sequels. I'm very pleased that Mel Brooks is still alive, but I think he's 100. And I don't know how involved he is with this, but Spaceballs from 1987 was a perennial film of all of our youth. I would say without a doubt. I've never met anybody who looked at it and said, oh my God, that was stupid. But there's been rumor of...
but it was...
by design, not by like, oh, we're ironically stupid. Amazon, so, basically Amazon, MGM Studios, which of course means they bought MGM, has been in development with Josh Gad, who's Beauty and the Beast, Frozen, Wolf Like Me, which was a cool Australian show I liked, and he's somebody I follow on social media. He's set to star and perform alongside Brooks. So Brooks is involved, but oh my God, I swear he's got to be pushing 100.
He's 90. He's 98. I just fact checked it, so he's 98 years old.
Thank you. But the current role, and this is what, because Star Wars fans got to hate things, the rumor is that Ariana Grande has been offered a role in the sequel to, this says Mel Brooks. I think somebody needs to spot check this headline. Mel Brooks Star Wars spoof. Now, I don't know about
sci-fi and fantasy, Charlie. How could this fantastic article be wrong?
I don't even believe it. Oh yeah, no, this is from the San Francisco Gazette. So real journalism. Come on.
Yes. Oh, that's true. I didn't know they had a sci-fi portion.
I guess they do. I don't know about y'all, but of course, Todd, you and I both loved Wicked, and Ariana Grande was spectacular in Wicked, and she's got great range. I think she can be funny. She spent a lot of time, Jimmy Fallon, SNL. I think she's got the chops to contribute to making this funny, but I just get the feeling that people who take a spoof movie way too seriously are going to be butthurt about this pretty young lady being funny and
people that are taking spoof films way too seriously.
They're out there. I'm not making this up. I don't know. Eric, where did you land with Wicked? Were you a fan?
Oh, I went into it with very low expectations because I hate when you divide something that's 2 hours long into two films. But I walked out being like a huge fan of the two of them, and I want them to be in a buddy cop film. I want them to be in a He-Man remake, like anything those two want to do going forward. I'm all in. But I guess my question for this is like, Spaceballs works because the zeitgeist was around the original Star Wars, so the jokes work, right? Like, who is thinking in 2025, I guess, unless you're doing Last Jedi, like what is this movie in 2025 when you're that far removed from the original Star Wars?
Precisely. Yeah, you're right. I don't know where they would find their voice. So I'm kind of with you on that one. A lot of these, the History of the World, which came out recently I think it was on Amazon, that was great. What's another Mel Brooks property that survived being remade in recent years that was either great or terrible? I'm not thinking of anything.
I don't know.
We had History of the World Part 2.
Exactly.
Is the last thing I could think of. And that was so-so.
Yeah.
It was more like a sketch show. It was kind of like, because that's what the original movie was. And they could just do sketches of things that are kind of...
and how could they go wrong, right? Exactly.
And nobody has really thought to redo any of his, like, classic comedies. It's not like Young Frankenstein.
They're not doing another Blazing Saddles, I'll tell you that much.
No, they're not.
I mean, we have other people come in and take the mantle from Mel Brooks with like the Zucker brothers. We had then the Wayans brothers making a scary movie. We had superhero movie, epic movie, disaster movie.
Right.
We didn't get a sci-fi spoof series.
Okay.
So maybe they could just twist this, like, because there was aliens in Spaceballs, because you had that diner scene, of course. So maybe they could pivot it and just make it a science fiction parody movie.
I mean, that's really where they were coming from, but I don't know. But again, so is this kind of posited as being kind of like a direct-to-video thing? So it's like, kind of do no harm.
I don't think so. Not if you're casting Ariana Grande.
Yeah, it's very true.
Josh Gad's involved. I wouldn't think so. And by the way, there was a Spaceballs animated series.
Yes.
And I put a link to it if anybody wants to. And you can watch those on YouTube. It was bad. It was bad. So maybe that's the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, the canary in the coal mine. The canary in the Spaceball.
Carrie Fisher in the coal mine. Oh no!
Oh, come on!
Don't do
too
that.
Soon, bro. It's been almost 10 years, but it's too soon. All right. Well, that takes us out of the news. Todd, the Uber has arrived. We've got to get to the Geek Easy. They're expecting us. I don't know if that means they're going to murder us or whatever, but hopping in the car, he's got a yacht rock playing because he wants to annoy the hell out of Todd. But I hear this familiar advertisement.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio quality content all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Eric, you are up.
So I am doing a couple things right now. I'm making my way through the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I'm loving. If you're not familiar with this, it's a book series that is a guy who's breaking up with his girlfriend. As that's happening, he's watching her cat, and aliens come in and take over the planet. And the long story short, without spoiling anything, the cat and the ex-boyfriend end up having to dungeon crawl for the foreseeable future in these books. They're exactly what I needed. They're super funny, and they're all over Book Talk right now. So that's I can't recommend that enough. I'm watching the new Spiderman animated on Disney, which I think is really cool.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Like I love I love everything about it. And then because it's Valentine's Day, I can't say enough good things about Heart Eyes. It was a great.
I think we meant to. We didn't end up going out this way. We could have gone to see a movie like yesterday, and it didn't end up happening. That would have been one I wanted to go check out. So it's a horror movie, right?
Well, it's this beautiful dance between a rom-com and a horror movie at the same time. And so there's like long stretches where it's doing rom-com and there's no serial killer at all, and then you're reminded very quickly that there's a human being that's trying to murder all the people in love in this movie. It is so funny and so well done. And because that's you guys watch enough movies to know, like when you're bending genres together, it's very hard to get the tone right. And I just thought this thing was just brilliant in how it did it. It's so smart and so self-deferential and funny. I actually wanted to see it. I also was going to go see it yesterday after I saw Captain America because I just thought it was that funny. I wanted to see it again.
Oh my gosh.
That's great. Yeah, that was on my list too as well, and I'd heard good things about it. I mean, you talk about like that genre. I think a movie that I really enjoyed that's kind of doing the same thing is Lisa Frankenstein.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
That was very cute, kind of balancing horror with a little comedy, a little weirdness. Felt like a little bit of Heathers and that black comedy of the 80s and 90s. So really cool.
Nice.
And then I don't know if you saw the trailer for that movie called Drop, which is about the
Drop looks awesome.
I was
too.
like, oh my god, how you like that too? Yeah, like, oh my god, I love it.
Very intense. Talk about dating being dangerous. God damn.
Right.
That's pretty tight.
One question about that Dungeon Crawler Carl. So is that more of like a fantasy comedy?
So yeah, but I the technical term I guess is a lit RPG. So it runs like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So these characters are ranking up during the course of the exposition.
That's awesome.
But it's like it's really dirty and funny, and like there's an AI in the first book that has a foot fetish, so it won't let the main character get shoes for the entire dungeon. So it's like that kind of like
oh my god,
funny.
That's so wild. I love it. Good deal. Yeah. All right, Todd.
Genre.
Todd, you and I shared, and April and I just watched this today, the 3-hour-long Saturday Night Live homecoming concert. Tonight, we're recording this on a Sunday, is the SNL 50. which I'm very excited to watch. Todd, you and I have both been SNL fans since birth. Eric, are you an SNL person?
Absolutely. Yep.
Good deal. But Todd, what did you think about that concert?
Yeah, SNL is a institution. I know everybody complains about it, but something doesn't stick around for 50 years without
Exactly.
having
Like the Flintstones or the
foot.
Simpsons. Yeah.
Exactly. It is part of our culture. It's been around forever, and just don't know how long it's gonna last with with the main guy, Lauren Michaels, potentially stepping down.
Right.
But this concert was pretty amazing. I
Big
don't
time.
know. I don't know who else could have assembled the list of artists they had for this, and it was a mix of guests they've had throughout time. It was a mix of talent that are performing songs they performed in the show. Like, you had like
Yeah.
a lot of the talent doing like what is it, the married couple with Will
Oh, the
Ferrell
Culp.
and
The
yeah,
Culps from they were like, you could
the
tell they were
Culps.
teachers doing it with Will
Yep.
Ferrell on the keyboard.
They
Yeah.
take modern songs to put the very square white person jive on it. You got like a medley of Lonely Island. You
Oh
got
my
Bill Murray
God.
coming back doing a song,
Nick the
which was
Lounge Singer.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got artists, anyone from like the Fugees with Lauryn Hill. I don't think I'm surprised she showed up, because she's got a history of like not showing up, not putting out
Yeah.
albums, but
It
she
was
showed
wild.
up at the Fugees. You got Snoop Dogg, Jelly Roll showed up doing
Yeah.
covers of Johnny.
I'm not a huge
Cashel.
Jelly Roll fan, but he did get out and do that thing. And then somebody who I'm not fond of, Post Malone, doing Sounds Like Teen Spirit with Nirvana. Oh my God,
that was amazing, because
that was spectacular.
They haven't played since, because
Well,
Kurt Cobain left. So
they split up when Cobain died. So
yeah,
and then
you get Post
obviously
Malone come out there, and I mean, I know
he
people.
killed it.
I mean, that dude is very. I mean, he goes hip hop, he does country, he does all these things. Now he does like Nirvana cover. He's very talented.
That was
He has an
incredible.
Oreo named after him. So I mean, how many people have an Oreo named after him? I don't.
I guess not enough people, I guess. But this was pretty incredible. So the people at NBC Universal, feel free to send us some money since I gave you that shout out. With this SNL 50th, they had a great doco that I talked about a few weeks ago that I loved, about behind the scenes of the series, like a 4-part documentary series. There's just so much synergy that I think has built a lot of excitement to what's happening this evening, which will stream live on Peacock. We watched this on Peacock, Todd. I assume you did as well. But they were effing and jeffing their way through it. They had Snoop Dogg out there singing "Gin and Juice" unedited, there was definitely a lot of adult material in this. So I'm sure the NBC censors were hanging right on that beeping button. I don't know if it aired live or if it was taped. I couldn't remember.
No, I think it was only exclusive to Peacock, because that's
okay.
So yeah,
gotcha.
It was interesting, the pairings of a lot of artists. Like, they had David Byrne show up, and he played with the Arcade Fire,
and then it had another one as well.
Came back again, performed.
Yeah.
You had some really cool covers of Eddie Vedder. He covered Tom Petty.
Oh yeah,
and covered some other things. I really thought it was amazing, the blending of modern, old. Even Bonnie Raitt came out, and
nobody's seen her in forever. Yeah, I mean, she looks
the same.
That's exactly what I said. As opposed to the B-52s, who they brought out, and those women kind of.
And they played my least favorite song in the world, so I was more than happy to fast forward.
It was not even a Steely Dan song. No, I thought they looked like melted ice cream. That but you know what? That's what happens when people age. They are really old. In all fairness, so it was pretty great. So is everybody tuning into the SNL thing, or is it just me? I'm really fired up about it.
Yeah, cool.
The funny part. Oh, sorry, Eric. I was just going to say one thing is, it was hard to find this damn concert on Peacock. I was looking like SNL 50. Well, I expected all the content to be there. It's like all over the place. Bad navigation. I finally found it.
Right. We're still, I can do you one better. We were watching it. We were a little over halfway through, and it stopped and erased my progress. Then I had to go back and hunt for it, and then fast forward. And it was right in the middle of Mumford & Sons, which is a band my wife loves. She was like, God damn it.
And there were ads too, so
and there were ads.
To rewatch the ads.
But and we did, because I was fast forwarding and didn't get far enough, and then I had to watch a 60-second ad. So whatever. It's just the service is cheap, but everybody pays for something. All right. Well, Todd, you have watched all of the last of Cobra Kai, 5 episodes. I've watched 2. I know that there's a very cathartic, like, hey, we brought it all full circle kind of ending. I haven't been able to avoid that.
Yeah. I won't spoil anything, but I will say This delivers. It lands the ship. The ending is phenomenal.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's full circle. There is a moment that I just had to laugh. It felt like such a soap opera moment when I saw it. I'm like, they did that. Oh my god!
You see, that's what I was saying to you watching it the first time. Like, the flight when they were on the plane and they got in the fight with the guy. I'm like, God, this is just too much for me.
Charlie, this is the most like telenovela MacGruber moment I think I've ever seen on a thing. When you'll see it, you'll be like,
yeah,
that tracks, because this show is an adult soap opera. It's
ridiculous. It is
cute,
ridiculous.
It's fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it quite a bit. So there are a lot of heart touching moments, really good character arcs towards the end of this, and some things are just like such tropes that I'm like, why not?
They trope their way through it. Yeah. Eric, where do you land with the whole Cobra Kai series? Fan, and are you tuning in?
I am not all caught up, but what I will say is, somebody as the same age as you, I'm blown away at how well they've deftly, because if we were kids and you said, hey, 30 years after you're done watching the original Karate Kid, a streaming service called Netflix is going to launch this telenovela version of people fighting karate in their 50s, you'd be like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And yet this thing continues to kind of build fire and builds to, Todd, don't spoil it, so don't nod, just stay, don't blink, don't do anything, but builds to another movie, which is like such chess in this whole thing. Like, I've been endlessly impressed by what they're doing. I think it's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm impressed. So
and one correction on that, Eric, this is the best part about this. This actually started on YouTube Red. It was
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It was like, for a half second it was on yeah.
And I love that
this survived YouTube Red going down.
I think it's incredible that YouTube is so powerful. They could try to launch their own streamer. It fails, and they were just like, let's launch a paid TV service instead. And it works. Live TV service. So YouTube is pretty unstoppable. You know what? There's no one that I know doesn't use YouTube on a daily basis for all kinds of stuff.
Where else are you going to go? Vimeo? You're going to go to, what is it, Justin TV?
My God. I don't, you better stop talking because you're talking nonsense. All right. Well, very quickly, I have been on a comic reading kick. I talked last time about how I'm reading the John Byrne Fantastic Four. I'm getting a lot of use out of my Marvel Unlimited. And if you're a Marvel person and don't have Marvel Unlimited, you are on drugs, because it is the best money you could possibly spend. And please, Disney, send me a check, because I've been using it for 15 years, for as long as it's been around. I'm a huge fan. But with this movie coming up, and Sam Wilson, who's obviously started as the Falcon, now he's Captain America. I had always heard bits and pieces about his first appearance and kind of how that came to be. So I jumped to it. I looked up his first appearance, Captain America, the 68 series, which started with issue number 100. So I started with basically what's issue 17 or 117. It dropped me in the middle of a story, which I'm like, well, should I go back? And I did actually read this and then jump into the next one. And I'm kind of sorry that I did, because reading that first one, this is absolute blasphemy. And, if you got to add me on socials or send us some dirty email, Stan Lee's stuff ages incredibly poorly. It's unreadable. It was absolutely unreadable. It was Cap had been body swapped by the Cosmic Cube, which is the Tesseract MCU people, by the Red Skull, that they switched bodies. So the body of the Red Skull gets dumped on a remote desert island where there's, I think it's Argentina, because there's Nazis there. And then there's also Sam Wilson from Harlem, who is stranded there with the natives and fighting with them. But he got stranded there and also took interest in falconry and has his, oh my.
As you do.
Todd, I was sending you screen caps.
Screen craps. Yes,
it was screen craps. I was sending you, and just like, oh my God. So this would be one of the rare, I definitely don't recommend. It's kind of like Don't Meet Your Heroes. So how I told you I've never wanted to meet John Byrne. I never really want to read. Remember how I used to be so fixated on, I'm going to read every issue of Fantastic Four. I'm going to read every issue of Captain America. I was dispelled from that by reading stuff like this.
You've been cured, Charlie.
I have been cured. Now I'm just sticking with the good stuff. So, Eric, you're a well-rounded guy in our genre. Do you have a Marvel comic you're particularly attached to? Have you read some of this older stuff?
I have not read the whole older stuff in a while. I was Marvel Unlimited for a minute, but I haven't done that for a while. I've been going to actual physical stores and buying. And as far as Marvel, I'm mostly reading Miles Morales and anything that has anything to do with Cable. It's kind of what I'm doing right now. So
quality.
Oh,
No,
really?
I totally appreciate it. What's now, Eric? You and I live in the same town. What's your shop of choice?
Comic Signal is where I go.
Oh, so you're a North Ender. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. I live near and have gone to Argos my entire life, so I still do.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff. I love it. Local shops. All right. Well, that's it for me, and that's it for the Geek Easy. So the main event has arrived. I have my phone out, got my Air Qantas app opened up. We are headed to the land down under where Hologram Tina and the mutants await us to take on Captain America, the Brave New World. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we are doing our review of Captain America Brave New World. Just to let you know, we will be going through this movie spoiler-free first.
To a point.
Our review score, and then basically pause it if you have not watched this film, and then we'll be going into the spoilers on the second half. So we will make sure we check ourselves before I wreck ourselves. But we would hope if you're seeing the movie later, come back and see what you think of the spoilers. So with that, let's get started.
Let's do it.
This movie, basically the logline is Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, finds himself in the middle of an international incident and must discover the motive behind a nefarious global plan. This is directed by Julius Ona, screenplay by 5 people, story by 3 people.
3 people. Yep. It's a cauldron.
It's a lot of people. 118 minutes long, which is one of the shorter Marvel films. Budget of 180 million. It looks like it's going to make about 80 to 90 over the 4-day weekend.
Well, no. Hold on. That number is now tracking to be north of 100, close to 200 globally. That's in one of the links I have below. So but I'm sure when you pulled this, that was accurate. Domestic. It looks like it's going to be pretty close to like 60-40. This 60 obviously being overseas, so
that's not bad. And people we've seen in these movies before. Obviously, Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford playing the president, Shira Haas playing Ruth Bat-Saraf, which is also named Sabra in the comics. Yes. Danny Ramirez playing Joaquin Torres, Call Lumley back as Isaiah Bradley, and then some other people that we won't touch on just because they may be considered spoilers.
Keep it spoiler free.
But we do have some other actors that are, I would say, less notable. So going from there, we will get into this movie, which essentially takes place at a time when Harrison Ford is now the president.
Right. And he
minus
is
the mustache.
He is, just in case you really didn't know, he is taking over the role from William Hurt, who played Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, going all the way back to the MCU in 2008 in Ed Norton's Incredible Hulk, which, quite frankly, is described by almost everyone I've ever met as being their least favorite early Marvel film, at least until we get to Thor: The Dark World. I don't know. Eric, have you ever met anyone in your travels who loved the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk movie?
Other than, so I actually like Ed as Banner. So, do I like the film? No. Is he a good Bruce Banner? Yeah, I think he's a really good Bruce Banner.
I could get on board with that. I like him as an actor as well. But yeah, he was one that I think after that film, he went loggerheads with the Marvel people, and it was my way or the highway, and he took the highway. So.
Todd, he wanted a lot of creative control that he did not get, obviously, in a Marvel movie. And do you remember who the first Thunderbolt Ross was in the Lee Hulk film?
Mr. Mustache himself, Sam Elliott. Yeah, Mr. Roadhouse.
Yeah, kind of crazy that we've had 3 of them. So, and I'm trying to remember who the president was before.
President Ritson, who was I was just talking about Chandler. He was a character, and it Dermot Mulrooney from Secret Empire or Secret Invasion, which
that's right. That was the last time we saw a president.
Yeah. And he was a one-termer because at the end of that he got all evil, and obviously that did not resonate with the voters. So
so this movie was set to be more in line with a political thriller, kind of like in regards to you know, the 70s thrillers that came out, like was it The Parallax View? We had
Yeah.
a bunch of others where people were basically being drugged or hypnotized
Well,
to
like
assassinate world leaders.
Manchurian Candidate-ish, which was going further back, but yeah.
Exactly. So with that, that's kind of our premise. What we do get, and I don't know how, if this is too spoilery, but that we finally find out that the celestial body has been once again actually
Damn it!
brought up in a Marvel movie, which
Really?
we hadn't heard about that.
It's
in a
only
Marvel
been 5
movie.
years, yeah.
Exactly, and they do discover adamantium. So I know that's low level, but that becomes
Right.
the basically the thing that brings everybody, all these nations together, is the fact that basically now this has got this body there that is now essentially a land, if you want to think about that, and all these foreign nations are trying to get the adamantium, but what they're trying to do is get a treaty so that the resources can be shared globally, because this
Right.
element is at the level of vibranium, and
Above.
vibranium, as we know, is controlled by Wakanda. We want a resource that can be used for many, many things
Across the
by
world, yeah.
world.
Exactly.
So that's kind of our premise set up. Sam Wilson is Captain America. That was established in the Falcon Winter Soldier, and Joaquin Torres is his sometimes sidekick, known as Falcon. He gets the old gear. So
Right.
with that, Charlie, you know, what were your thoughts about this movie in regards to, you know, what it did, how it sat with you, basis like, because we know we got a lot of like negativity about this movie before it even came out.
That's true, and a lot of my thoughts, which I'll go a little, you know, when we're in spoiler portion, kind of speak to that, because this was a movie, and as you'll kind of see on some of the links that I provided below, went through extensive retooling, and as we all know, it's fairly standard in any filming environment, any movie that comes out there, to be, oh, we had some reshoots because we went back to do some ADR or this thing or that thing. But then there are cases of movies like the Han Solo, the solo Han Solo movie, which was totally dumped and redone because Disney didn't get along with Lord Miller. So they brought in Ron Howard to crank out a movie that many people, myself not included, just didn't dig on. But one of the links I provided shows 11 different reshoots, which are fairly pivotal to the story, that reading through there, I mean, these are some of the bigger plot points of the film that didn't exist before they said, yeah, we got to go back and pad this thing out. And even in padding it out, it's 2 hours long. Which is really weird. I mean, Endgame was 3 hours long, but there was a lot going on in that story that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate here. But so yeah, if you're asking me, that I found that to be concerning. And then another one of these blurbs I had down there is that actor, what was the young lady's name, was going to play Diamondback, who was a member of the villainous group, the Serpents, or the Serpent Society, which I just started reading that again from the kind of classic Mark Gruenwald from the 1980s. And it was the young woman, her name was Rosa Salazar, she was a lead of Battle Angel, which is a movie I don't think I saw. She played in one of the short treks where she was a Starfleet captain, spinning off of Star Trek Discovery. She was supposed to have that role, and did, until her role was cut. But her little puffy action figure now resides inside of McDonald's Happy Meal. So a real disconnect. Apparently so. I don't know. I'll have to swing by McDonald's this week when I'm on the road, and not that I'll eat the food, but yeah. Alita Battle Angel star Rosa Salazar was cast as Serpent Society member, and fans on social media are expressing confusion about her absence, but she is in the Happy Meal, apparently. So that's pretty bad optics as well. In my opinion. Oh, Ty, you just dropped something there. There you go. Yeah, so you can see in the upper left-hand corner of this that you just dropped. But yeah, no, as I had mentioned, none of these things that I'm griping about are apparently affecting the big picture, because they're predicting, again, a President's Day weekend, which would obviously include tomorrow, which is Monday, and Thursday night, which is when I saw the movie, of a global box office of over 200K on 180 million budget. So they're on their way working into the black. But as we all know, that doesn't really mean you've got a great story on your hands.
Yep. So, Eric, when it comes to all of the noise beforehand, now you've seen the movie, what are your thoughts? I mean, on this movie in regards to, to deliver, where does it feel like it fits within the MCU? Does that matter? Does everything have to connect to have an enjoyable film?
That's a great question. The short answer is no. Not everything needs to connect to have an enjoyable film, unless you say 19 times, and this is not a spoiler. Unless you say 19 times, we really should put the Avengers back together. Then yes, you have to connect it to other things.
Wink,
Yeah.
wink. Yeah, exactly.
So I would say there was a lot of noise leading up to this, and I was a little bit nervous when I got into it. And you can see the seams. There are some really bad. You know, especially some of the backgrounds are just awful towards the end of the film.
Oh God, yes,
but
absolutely.
I would say its biggest issue is twofold. One, you guys sort of leaned into it. There's far too many writers, and some of the exposition is like high school film student bad, right? I won't say the one when we get to the spoilers. I'll give you the one that I'm talking about. That's just high school level terrible.
I love examples.
But the exposition, so anytime they feel like the plot is stuck, they stop and they talk for 7 minutes to tell you exactly what's going on, and then they continue. And that really kind of mucks up the pacing. And then I think the other thing is there's so many new people in here. Plus, you're doing a sequel to a movie from 2008 that I think it gets gummed up in the middle and misses out on some of the things that really work really well.
Right, and yeah, that's something that'll be addressed in my spoiler. All right, Todd, well, give us your non-spoiler take, and then let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if I took this at a level of, was I entertained, and was there some moments I really enjoyed? Yes. Was this a great movie? No. Was it? Where does it fit in the Marvel canon? And it's a mid-tier movie. That is, by the way, not one of the worst movies because I've lived through some of those.
Yeah. If I can jump in here, this is, just for the record, MCU film number 35. 35.
There you go.
That's crazy.
So
that's crazy.
Like right around 17, 18. So maybe a little lower than that, but still, there's a handful of bad MCU movies, but most of them are good to can go to greatness. And some are just okay, and that's fine with me. But I was entertained. I thought some of the scenes were pretty cool. I thought this just felt like more of a before superhero movies had to be elevated and they could just be entertaining as long as they weren't horrible.
So Fox, like you're talking about like Fox.
Yeah, it was like, that's a win for us. Hey, that was good.
Yeah.
So for me, this was a very safe movie. This was a very popcorn film. I really liked some of the performances. I did think, I was worried about this because I mentioned this. I'm not sure if Sam Wilson and the actor Anthony Mackie could really raise the bar to his level. I thought he finally brought the gravitas to that role. I was worried it was going to be like when Shuri took over for, as Black Panther. I thought she did not rise to the occasion. I didn't feel like, oh, wow, yeah, it's hers now. And I never felt like she was that capable. She was a better sidekick than that. But I do feel like...
and at the end of that film, she basically gave it up anyway. So it's like, well, what was the point? There wasn't a great hero's journey for... I thought I'm trying to remember because we watched it not that long ago. I thought she basically surrendered it to... the Man-Ape guy, and then she ran off to meet her nephew. I thought that's how that movie ended.
Okay.
I must be mistaken.
I don't remember.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
But I thought there was some good. I did like his relationship with Keen. I thought that there should have been more of that. I thought it could have been much better. As you think about some of those elements, there was some, like you said, Eric, a lot of characters that just showed up out of the blue and like, what the heck? Now they're just in. And so yeah, it felt rushed. There was a lot of cameos that just felt forced and kind of confusing. And I will say this, not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler, but I will say, folks, if you stay to the end of this movie for the post-credit scene, you're going to be like, that could have been in the movie. Right. Be like, what are you wasting my time?
It was a great example of this meeting could have been an email. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. If you think about some of the great post-credit scenes, Sam Jackson showing up to Tony Stark
and saying, you're part of a big world.
We needed one of those. If
we
this
sure
is
did.
Truly maybe the last movie we're going to talk about a certain team coming back. So that's all I'm going to say. But I will give it my review now, so everybody knows what it is. I would say this is I'll give it a 6 out of 10, which means midline could, I don't know, it's that level of like, it's not really good. It's fun. It's dumb fun, Charlie. This is my dumb fun movie. Didn't have to think too hard. There's just a
So
lot of things that I just had to turn
six
off my brain for.
6 out of 10, 60%. So it's a D, like in the old grading system.
Which is rough because I always feel like, well, you can't use the whole scale. I like to use the whole scale like 1 is a broken thing. It's like, this should never have been made. 10 is a masterpiece, and like 7 in the middle is like, I didn't feel like I was robbed, for my money.
Right. All right, Eric, you go. You be the monkey in the middle, and then I'll do the last one as far as ratings.
I would say, I'm sure you guys don't do 0.5. So if we're not doing 0.5s, I would
we
say
do. Absolutely.
You can do whatever you want.
Do it.
You can
do a
quarters.
decimal.
You can do eights.
Yeah, we've done quarters. We've done quarters. Absolutely.
Well, you threw me off with the D. I don't think it's a D. So the fact that I don't think it's a D, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Like a C. So if you're doing like the grade scale, which is always funny, I'm like, well, then why do you even have anything below like, 70, 50, whatever the fail scores? Nothing's below that. It's just like, why do you have those numbers? It's just false hope, right?
Well, this is going to blow your mind because you guys know that I'm the Captain America guy. I gave this a 5 out of 10. I was incredibly disappointed, and I was putting a lot of eggs in this basket. I spent money on this popcorn thing over behind my thumb here. If you're watching us on YouTube, you know what I mean. I put the poster up just because I really do like Anthony Mackie as Captain America. I loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've rewatched it and enjoyed it. Todd didn't like it. People don't rave about it. I thought it was a great, grounded, following through on a really pivotal storyline that I loved from the 80s by the late Mark Gruenwald, the Captain America No More, when Steve gave up the identity and John Walker came on the scene. Loved that storyline, and I thought they did an all right job telling that story. And but I don't, and I have my thoughts, which we can go round robin and I'll read through those. But there was so much lacking in this for me that I just couldn't get behind it. So spoiler time. Pause your
pause your
iPod.
You heard our thoughts. Pause here if you have not seen the movie, or if you don't care, keep listening because now it's spoiler time.
Right.
So with this, I think it's going to be interesting how we talk about this because essentially this movie for me, I think had a lot of promise at the beginning,
big time,
and then it kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of Captain America: The Winter Soldier when that first scene when they're going in, he's going underwater, go up in the ship, takes on what's the guy's Batroc, which I thought was great. That was such a cool opening of a movie, and same thing here. I thought there was a good plot. We're going in. I thought Falcon was pretty neat the way he came in. We got introduced to the Serpent Society Sidewinder, Guillermo del Toro. No, Guillermo
del Toro. Did he take up acting? If I can interject, because the Serpent Society, it was funny because I was just reading those comics just yesterday. They were fantastical, and then going back to Batroc, he was just a dude who wore a goofy costume, which they managed to do. Like the duel between him and Cap at the beginning of that movie was totally amazing. Sidewinder and the Serpent Society, they're all super criminals who are themed after snakes. So you got Sidewinder and Bushmaster and Diamondback. So just transitioning them over to be like regular ass dudes really sucked. And then you got the same thing. Cap has to fight some giant guy that they're doing. It's a punch up. They're just smacking each other, and it just blew. I just thought
he had really, like little hooks. I think that was the only thing in his hands when he fought.
And again, you could tell the impetus behind this. Well, we want to keep it grounded. We want to use as many real world elements as we can get away with. Yet they had Tiamat and the adamantium and the villain who was super powered. And then of course, have the Red Hulk at the end, which is not it's in all the marketing. So even if we weren't doing spoilers, it'd be pretty germane to talk about that. But I just absolutely thought they sucked. And as you can see in the article that I dropped, 11 of these scenes were part of the reshoots, and the Sidewinder piece and Giancarlo being a part of it was a very big part of that. And I'm like, but if you watch that scene in the movie, it just could have really been done without. They reshot it because it's like, well, we got to pad the time and sort of create a villain. But Giancarlo, then he was there, and then he comes back and gets captured, and he's gone. So it's like, who cares? Which sucks. Yeah. to be such a waste of such an incredible actor who in genre circles, he's enormous. Moff Gideon, oh my God, great villain. And then he sucks in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the first time they meet up post, basically he escapes, gets away. And then I did really like the scene where they fought.
Right.
Where
that
he's
was, that was good. That was cool.
I'm like, oh, I mean, this is pretty cool. It was a good fight. I thought it was pretty well shown without, Sam without his gear, what he could do. I thought that was a pretty cool scene. But to your point, I felt like it was just, we're going to drop some names maybe to make fanboys happy. And we really didn't.
And it didn't make this fanboy happy because, again, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Mark Gruenwald era Cap guy, and Serpent Society is one of his main creations that he started with when he did his run, early 300s of Cap, and they screwed it into the ground. They made it into something that was just it was just a pack of dudes, and really a pack of dudes because they cut Diamondback, Rosa Salazar, which could have at least broken up the sausage fest a little bit, and so I just thought that sucked.
Yeah. So, Eric, you said you had a bit of dialogue. I want to hear what that dialogue was that made you cringe and feel like...
Oh, you're muted, bud. You're muted.
I will only give you one. Sorry, I was muting. I will give you one. There is a scene early on where President Ross talks to his executive assistant and says, "Have you heard from her yet? Betty, my daughter." It's like, you would absolutely know it was your daughter. There is no reason to say your daughter unless you're explaining to the audience, I'm about to talk about my daughter who hasn't been in these films for 57 years. So that's an example.
By the way,
The other example, Todd, is your favorite fight scene. I don't understand the motivation. Why does he want to kill Captain America so much? There's no reason why he shows up out of the blue and
he's for free.
He's a merc. Yeah, exactly. So if he's like, well, I escaped, but now I got to kill you, like just for funsies or just because, I'm so pissed off. But yeah, the Betty, my daughter, is like, his assistant was going to go, do you mean Betty from the Flintstones? Because I don't think she's real.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Betty, the person. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the only other thing that like stands out as just the red herring that they don't pay off is the amount of times in that movie that they say Bruce Banner, and there's no Hulk to be seen in this entire movie. No. They say Bruce Banner for most of the first 10 minutes of the film, and then
Bruce Banner. Yeah,
they show clips of Hulk fighting Abomination.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we tore up Harlem. They mentioned that 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, okay, but again, it's kind of funny because 2 of the main actors who are in that film, William Hurt, God rest his soul, and Ed Norton, who is not assigned to a role that is ongoing, aren't part of things anymore. So overall, you kind of touched a hair. That's my second point. This film really leveraged a big part of it as a sequel to a 17-year-old film that most people hated. So it's like that scarcely a recipe for success. And like I said, the 2 main actor, one who got fired or quit, and then one who died. But as I mentioned, I've never met anybody who loved that film, was like, well, an early success after Iron Man was that Hulk film. They really nailed it. Everybody I talked to puts that in their bottom 5 certainly of phase 1. They probably put it at the very bottom. So to predicate most of this and then our main villain on a film that people don't like, how is that going to deliver us into success?
Well, and then one of the ultimate parts of this movie was about the motivation of, we had to hear Betty's name a whole lot because that was the whole premise of Ross getting better, getting better.
Yeah.
He kept on talking about, I got to do it for Betty. I don't know if she'll ever do it. I got to do it for Betty. I got to do it for Betty. And that got a little annoying because after a time, I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah. But I mean, it just got to be a point where it's like, okay, does anybody remember Betty Ross? I don't know. I kind of want to say Betsy Ross. I mean, she made the flag, yes.
She sure did. The absolute only mention of Betty Ross after the 2008 film was the fact that Mark Ruffalo, as Bruce Banner, named the orbiting satellite that had the Hulkbuster armor, named it Veronica. So it was a riff on Betty and Veronica. That was literally the only, and he moved, and then he moves on to Natasha, even though that doesn't end up working out. So never thinks about her, the great love of his life. Nope, we're good. And then it's a thing in this movie. So it's like, okay, it just really felt like clutching at straws. Like it was a member berries of something that you hated. So how does that work?
Yeah. So Eric, you talked about new characters and lots of characters just showing up. So do you have any like main points to be like why? And is there a reason why?
I sure
You
do, but
thought they were
Eric
brought
first.
in?
Well, I mean, so I mean, Sabra is one of them. My son was calling her,
Yes.
was asking me during the movie if she's related to Black Widow because he doesn't understand that Widow is a program, and I don't
Right.
think
It's like G.I. Joe.
I don't think he's alone in the fact that he doesn't know that Widow is a program, right? So
Right.
that's one of them, that she's just kind of there, and there's a fight scene where you can tell that she's different, but they don't explain it until we're a ways down. And then I think, and I know that they're trying to be comic accurate, but I don't understand the making the Falcon's costume so that he has to take his helmet off every time he needs to talk. It feels like there's a better way to do that. And I think the fact that, and this is like the biggest cameo in the movie, the biggest fact that you are going to bring Sebastian Stan in as Bucky to seemingly kind of push the movie one step further, and all that does is make us think like, no, that was the movie. I mean, Falcon can be a part of it, but we want these two together the whole time.
Yes.
Why can't we do this?
Especially if you never saw them, then you never saw the TV show. You're like,
yeah,
well, they had a great chemistry. Why aren't they together again? Well, you should watch the Disney Plus show. And then you would have been happy.
That was going to be one thing I was going to compliment this film on. In addition, I'll jump in to talk my thoughts about Sabra, is that at least if you did not see that Disney Plus film, I feel like you could have jumped on into this with no trouble. Because think about Endgame, old Steve, here's the shield, it's yours, because blah, blah, blah. And then we jump to this movie, now he's Captain America, seems totally normal. So you didn't have this like big self-doubt he had where he gave the shield up and then they gave it to John Walker, and it was a big kerfuffle, and then he had to take it back and defeat what's her butt, who's the Flag Smasher. Okay. So that I will compliment that on. That factors into my 5 out of 10. Like, okay, they handled that well. But the character of Sabra, extreme waste of time. She doesn't really contribute much at all. The fact that she is Ross's special security advisor and was a former global assassin doesn't really stack up for me. It seems like she wouldn't pass that first background test.
Well, that's true. She was Widow.
She was a Red Womb.
Right,
Did I say Red Womb?
Yeah.
She was a Red Womb graduate. Yes. So she was a widow who was liberated, obviously.
I was thinking of she was, because in the comic she was an Israeli
Mossad.
Of the
Mossad.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, probably not an assassin there, but yeah, blending it all together. And once again,
it makes no sense. Why? And again, she's a weird character. She doesn't really factor in much to the plot. We're like, okay, now we got a third person. So she was supposed to be a surrogate to Scarlett Johansson's character. Like, okay, here's our next widow
from the Winter Soldier. I think they try to recreate that type of
synergy. There's no doubt, and I saw this in a video, a review video, that they worked so hard to break down so many of the beats of that film. And I feel like all of it failed. They just couldn't. It was Winter Soldier until Endgame came along, was without a doubt my favorite MCU film. And Endgame they're kind of neck and neck for me personally. But this had none of that magic, and I'm not going to say it's because of Anthony Mackie's performance. Like you said, I think he stepped in. He's the thing that is the saving grace of anything at all. But everything else falls apart.
Yeah, I mean. Once again, now, if you are showing up to this movie, you're like, why is Bucky running to be a senator?
Right.
Like, yes, this old assassin that was thrown away, who's 110 years old.
Same thing. Same thing. It's like, okay, Red Room graduate now works for the president. Lifetime Hydra assassin. Now he's your senator from Ohio or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, everybody's wearing different hats in this brave. Maybe it's a brave. Maybe
Sorry,
that's
I can't help you out. I've got to go to a campaign fund. Like, what?
What? Yeah. Well, and they're teeing it up for his role in what we're going to see him in Thunderbolts, because that's his job. That's why he's sitting in that congressional hearing, listening to Elaine from Seinfeld talk about, like, well, the Avengers suck, and I got to get you some new people, and blah blah blah. And he's sitting there like, oh, I don't know about this, So it was an obvious tee up. It was a start your engines kind of moment, which they talk about on the Weekly Planet, like, we're trying to get a sequel going for this, and it's just is not a click for me.
Yeah, I think a real huge missed opportunity was, I think there could have been done more with Joaquin Falcon. I thought they had really good
great.
chemistry. I thought they were a lot of fun.
That's a character I like, and his outfit.
But they basically said, we're gonna have you go and crash because we need to have you someone to show
someone
that
has
you
to get hurt.
died.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like the James Rhodey moment, right? When
exactly. So they
I felt like they were regurgitating a lot of the beats from things we've seen before. They just didn't work as well, and I will give them credit. I think where people thought where this was going, and we'll get into the leader now because I think we have to, but a lot of people were thinking, I'm guessing, that he was taking the pills because he thought because he wanted to be the Red Hulk. Like, I am going to have something to stop us from these superheroes that I don't trust. So I'm going to be that weapon. When they did the Pull and Flame, though, actually, he thought this was medication to stop him from his heart hurting. So I thought that was at least a little bit, okay, I get it, because in the comics, that's exactly what happened. Ross got experimented on. He showed up, and it was a great run in the comics, too. Like, who's this Red Hulk? It's actually Ross. He doesn't have a mustache, though, so you can't tell.
Right.
But
I like that, it's like the glasses on Clark Kent. Absolutely.
But the whole leader plot line, just for me, was just off, because how did he get out of there? Obviously, he used mind control, but he was basically given unlimited ability to do anything in prison. Like, he wouldn't figure out a way to get out.
He was never a villain to start with. He was just he wasn't even a mad scientist. He was like, well, I'm really into, like, if you go back and watch the film if you haven't seen it, if you have to. He's like, well, I've been experimenting with your blood and blah, blah, blah. And then he manages to stop Banner from changing, but it's a temporary thing. And then Tim Roth shows up and he's like, well, just let me know and I'll put some more gunk into you. So he creates the Abomination. Okay, that's not bad. But it's kind of sloppy and reckless. And then he gets dripped on by the blood and you see his head swell or whatever. But he was never really then he was locked up for 20 years. So, okay, that can make him kind of like a bad guy, but it's like, it was a little light to kind of characterize his villainy. So, he was this big mastermind and whatever it is. It's not like he was Toby Jones and as Arnim Zola in the TV screen. And again, in Winter Soldier, where he's like, this is a huge master plan that's been gestating for, 70 years. And wow, it's really brilliant. SHIELD is fake and Hydra's infiltrated them. That was pretty brilliant, even though it was lifted from the comics. But there was just not the brilliance that existed here. So I don't know. I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, Eric, when it comes to the character of the leader in the comics, obviously he's got the big long head with the black hair. He's basically really smart, but he creates other villains for the Hulk. So he's like one of his notable villains, as much as the Hulk has a lot of villains there. I kind of felt like he was a wasted opportunity. I don't know. Did you feel like that was a huge problem?
Well, I mean, there's a huge plot hole in the way in which they use him, in that he's mind controlling people to get things done. Why doesn't he just mind control Captain America or Ross?
Right, to let him out so he can be free. Yeah, exactly.
Like, so that was that plot hole didn't really work for me, and I think he's better. And this is something that the MCU does a terrible job at. Is that he's better in the dark, lurking around. You never really need, if you don't see him, this works a whole lot better. That there's just somebody who's checkmating people, and that SEAL Team 6 scene has a little bit more weight to it because he shows up out of nowhere, and he's creepy. But as soon as he gets into the daylight and he's just wandering around like he's going to get Starbucks, it doesn't really work as well.
When he's wearing that Adidas tracksuit, it just kind of doesn't look as cool,
Yeah, standing online waiting for that, exactly. So, and speaking of the SEAL Team scene 6, they put a deep cut in there. The SEAL Team guy was Commander Dennis Dunphy, who is D-Man from that Mark Gruenwald run, and who also had a heart issue. So that was actually lifted for the comic. So nice deep dive, not really obviously enough for it to save it. So I think that was my last note. I will go on to say I'm definitely more judgy of this. I'm meaner about this because of my love of Cap in general. You see Cap all around me. Cap is very big for me. It's a cosplay I do, comics I read. I love Captain America, but tacking the Serpent Society in there and just kind of ruin it for me sucked. Wasting the leader who could have been a great mastermind. It's like how they wasted MODOK in the Ant-Man Quantumania movie. MODOK's a super cool character who is, a crime boss in his own right. He's part of AIM, the Advanced Idea Mechanics, which ended up being part of Thor 3. So they're really just they're parting out all this different like super cool bad guy organizations. The only one they've done right, in my opinion, is Hydra. Hydra was really done right in these MCU films. Everything else has just been kind of garbage. So I get why they have to move things forward, and then they have to, Eric, to your point, say you got to rebuild the Avengers. We got to get running with the Avengers. We got to do something, this and that. I liked how Joaquin Torres' Falcon outfit was green, because going back to the comic I talked about, Falcon's original outfit was green with no wings, which was weird, and he had a big gold chain because it was the 70s. Why wouldn't he?
Deep V.
And a deep V, absolutely. But I know that they got to give Stam new stories to tell. This just was not a good story.
Yeah, I did like the battle with the Hulk.
Yeah,
because I thought it kind of brought back that the Hulk is a badass,
can
do amazing damage. It was interesting because people were saying, well, why are these things doing damage to him? Well, all of Stam's weapons were coated with vibranium. That's why they could puncture his skin.
Right.
The bullets couldn't. In the comics, Red Hulk was essentially like his body temperature was almost like his body was like 5,000 degrees or something.
And that's why
so
he's burning stuff as he starts to burn out of his clothes. You see there's burn marks.
They kind of didn't do that though when he was actually fighting. I did think that though they went back to the biggest trope in the world. Do it for Betty. Don't you remember the cherry blossoms? Love will conquer all, and your anger will come down.
They lumped it, and then he's in the Oval Office before he goes out on the podium, and he calls her and talks to her on the phone. He's like, "Maybe we can go see the cherry blossoms, whatever." It was horrible. And then Todd, I will agree / disagree with you about that final film. I feel like that's the CGI they just had to jam in because it seemed very,
of course,
very bad. And when we get the sun is real low moment, and he talks him down and he converts back into Harrison Ford, I feel like they pasted him in there because you see Harrison Ford in a baggy pair of pants, and he's like jittering. I was like,
I mean, when you make the Red Hulk a huge part of your versus a surprise, you put it in your advertisement, you gotta deliver something. And
my biggest ouch, and then I will definitely shut up, is the weakest link in this story, and this breaks my heart, and this goes back a couple of years, is Harrison Ford. I have loved Harrison Ford since I was 5 years old. I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater with my mom and my brother, and I have loved Indiana Jones, read the books, have the comics, do the cosplay. I adore Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford is great. You got to put his ass out to pasture. He is way, way past the milk expiration
for these type of roles. I think he does great on other things, shrinking. But when it comes to like action things, we're going to have him part of us franchise.
I mean, it's rough.
Probably a bad call.
And again, I didn't include these in our reading, but I read a long article about his grousing his way through the entire film and being a grump, and doing the mocap stuff. After his plane injury a couple of years ago, he can't raise his right arm above his shoulder. Todd, it was kind of like how you described the arm injury you have, that you can't raise your arm up. So for him to do all the Hulk stuff, he was just bitching about it the whole time, couldn't do a bunch of stuff. It was just a mess. So you're right. Put him back in that office in Shrinking, which is an Apple Plus show that I thought was absolutely fantastic. But he's got to stop trying to be Indiana Jones, and at least he knew he didn't want to be Han Solo anymore. But this, I was just, oh God, just fine. You know what? This was our friend Kurt Krug said this to me in chat. Why didn't they bring back Sam Elliott to be Thunderbolt Ross from the 03 Bana film? That would have been great, because Sam Elliott is terrific. That's it. I'm done.
Okay, Eric, any last thoughts on that? But we'll get into the after your last thoughts, we'll get into the stinger, and then we'll have a couple of takes from our SFU Discord.
I mean, the only last thought I would say is kind of echoing what you just said, Todd, is like, if you're going to put Hulk in all of the promotional things and you're going to wait till the very end of the film, it should be a half hour long, or you should do it sooner. I do disagree. I thought Harrison Ford worked his tail off when he didn't need to in this film. He could have absolutely mailed this in. And I thought this was a much better performance than most of his other late stage action films.
Late stage, like he's going to keel over.
Well, I mean, I'm with you. Like, he's the wrong call because he can't do this forever. But I thought in this particular one, he was one of the standout performances for me. And I will also shut up just saying, like, if we're going to do the Hulk, do it earlier or do it longer.
Right. Get it soon and get it right. I agree.
Yeah. And so that cuts us, to the end of the movie where he's in jail now. He basically relinquishes everything back. There'll be a new president. We don't know who that's going to be.
There was no vice president in this whole film, so it could be me. You never know. I could be
maybe
in charge of the MCU.
Maybe it's well, it can't be the Veep. It can't be Julia Louis.
Oh God!
Dreyfus.
Oh no!
Well,
yeah, exactly.
No, she's not going to get promoted.
Maybe it'll be
so basically,
Hobbit.
he relinquished everything. He's now in the prison where he had imprisoned all the Avengers.
Prison,
so then he gets to meet Betty, and Liv Tyler shows up, and she does that voice she's known so well for.
I know you're not a fan.
Every time she performs, I think she's okay. I just think she always sounds like, oh, it's okay. I mean, not a very strong gravitas, but that's okay. She showed up. And the funny part about this is, if the Avengers is going to reform, Mark Ruffalo, no one wants to show up, and they want to bring in the Red Hulk out of the raft to I guess we're just going to have
it's going to be
the Red Hulk show up.
It's going to be
won't
super
be Harrison
awkward.
Ford transforming into the Red Hulk. He'll just we released the Red Hulk, and he's not a smart Red Hulk like in the comics.
Right.
He's just going to be the Hulk we bring in.
Right. We're gonna have Christmas Hulk, red and green. Get used to
it. Exactly. So our last bit is the stinger. That is where it's at the raft. Sam Wilson shows up to have a casual conversation with the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And
conversation.
All that is told is, things, you thought things were bad. Just wait till the others show up. I'm like,
give me a friggin' break. Come on.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, right. That was helpful.
Clue?
Yeah, the others.
Nobody says, fine, I'll do it myself. Nobody says I'm forming an Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the great post-credit scenes we've had.
Wasn't the others one of those horror movies that we saw, Todd, where it was like, they stopped by
and the ghosts.
Oh,
Nicole Kidman showing up with some ghost kids.
Oh, I like it. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't know. What did you guys think? Was that as bad as I thought?
Yeah, it was. Like I said initially, it was a meeting that could have been an email. It was like, just don't even bother. And Todd, I know you have very strong feelings about stingers because, like, put it in the damn movie. It's not worth sitting through 10 minutes of credits and seeing who is the Foley artist and the 19th guy who is the rotoscope dude, and the fact that they filmed it, part of it in Greenland or Red, White, and Blue Land, if you prefer. Just a total mess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wish they would just stop doing this because they really can't. The amount of these that they've missed is outnumbering the ones that they hit on. So I'd love them to not do that. And then the only other thing I thought of that stinger was, so let me get this straight. The uber smart brain controlling leader you put across the hall from the Red Hulk in the same prison.
That's going to work out. Yeah, it's a huge prison, but they have one room to put prisoners
one
in.
room.
What's in the rest of it? Is it a mall? Is it a lot of Starbucks, maybe?
Yes.
Potentially? I don't know.
It's like that person when they're seating you at a restaurant and they look at all the tables like, oh, the only two we got is here. Your ex-wife was right next to you and you're going on a date with your new girlfriend.
Right, and it's also right by either the bathroom or the kitchen. I can't help you.
And I just want to, this made me laugh because when they said the others, I think that's more, even Marvel doesn't know what's happening. So we're just going to call them the others. We don't know.
At the end of it, he should have said the others, and his voice goes up and he kind of raises his hands like, nah.
Asterisk. We'll determine at a later date when we have a script.
TBD. All right, let's jump into a couple of comments we got from the wonderful people at our SFU Discord. This first one comes from Peter Stein, who is my co-host over on our Star Trek podcast. Code 47. I couldn't remember the name of it. I just recorded it earlier today. Peter says it seems to be a decent addition to the franchise. In parentheses, at least it wasn't a dumpster fire like I was expecting. On that, he and I disagree. It was great that Sam Wilson's character seemed to be the same, so no excessive retcons or such. It definitely felt like there were large parts / subplots that had been cut / written in, especially when it came to the final scene between Wilson and his sidekick, like we were talking about. The story arc with Ross was good, but not fleshed out as it could have been, though I did quite enjoy that they brought back Liv Tyler for some continuity. And the villain being from The Incredible Hulk was an interesting choice. That's one way to put it. As a popcorn flick, it was good. As a thought provoker like The Winter Soldier, not so much.
Yep.
All right, Todd.
Yes, Chipotle Bear, aka Jose from the Nerd Chat says, as this really as this is really part of the next phase of Marvel movies, do you think that does a good job helping introduce new characters and build some hype, or does it hurt the next phase?
That's pretty obvious what we
Um,
think about that, I would say.
yeah, I don't think it did much to advance. I feel like this is the end of a phase because it didn't really bring forward anything to tell us who the next Avengers could be.
Right.
It doesn't say how this will connect with other things except the others. And when you have just that,
The other
kinda leaves
what?
us,
Yeah.
maybe
You're like,
we should get the Avengers together. And
Yeah. What do you think? Does that sound okay? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely lacking. So I think that's about it, guys. Any final thoughts? We good? We're shaking our head.
We're good.
All right. Well, that's the show. Folks, thank you for joining us. Eric, oh my God, it was great to have you back. It's been like 3 years.
Great
So
to
we're
be
not
here.
doing that again. We're super duper having you back sooner than that. Where do people find you out there in the webosphere?
Just the incredible Halt anywhere that you want to be on the webosphere to use your
Very
parlance.
good.
Yeah.
A word that I absolutely made up. Todd, what about you?
You can follow me at the threads at it's Teoxtra, right? That's right.
Think about it.
I have to
about it.
remember what it is. At threads, at Teoxtra, at Blue Skies, Todd Oxtra, at Instagram and Blue Sky. It is at Secret Friends Unite. Check us out there. Check out our Discord. Check out our YouTube channel and enter our contest.
Yes, please, and absolutely. You can find me at that same Paragon, the Blue Sky, the Instagram, and the threads. I am at the C3 TheCeeThree. But my biggest joy is being at our Discord, our Secret Friends Unite Discord, where we have a lot of great fun chats about the geek life. And then I also run a Discord called United Trekkers of Michigan. Don't have to live in Michigan to be a part of it, but if you love to talk about Star Trek, that's the spot. And with that, I will bid you adieu, friends. As always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Mambo number 5.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.